In the last 4 decades, the American government has implemented regulations aimed at enhancing environmental protection and safeguarding the rights of minority groups, female, workers, and consumers. These regulations have resulted in the development of numerous laws and regulatory bodies, some of which have led to extreme policies. For instance, a previous example highlighted the restriction of an employer's ability to select employees based on their sex or race, resulting in opponents arguing that individualism has been compromised due to these new laws. Conversely, proponents of anti-discrimination assertively challenge the traditional division of occupational roles between men and women.
Heart and blood vessel diseases continue to claim more lives, not just in our country but worldwide, surpassing all other causes combined. Astonishingly, these diseases are largely preventable for almost everyone and can even be reversed. Over the past 29 years, we have demonstrated the power of simple, low-cost interventions by implementing dietary and lifestyle changes. Despite the availability of sophisticated and expensive state-of-the-art measures like quantitative arteriography and cardiac PET scans, we have shown that these straightforward and affordable interventions can effectively halt or reverse the progression of conditions such as prostate cancer.
Architecture seems to be a source of both pleasure and trouble for me. I reside in the western part of London, where I find many streets to be extremely unattractive, causing me distress whenever I walk to the supermarket or take the tube. I fail to comprehend why those buildings were constructed without any architectural consideration. The presence of a poorly designed building has a significant and long-lasting impact on the people residing nearby, potentially spanning hundreds of years. This duration of influence is comparable to that of a poorly written book or play, which shocks me when it is presented. It appears that the frustration stems from the lack of aesthetic beauty in architecture.
Are you a chocolate lover? Even true chocoholics might not know what their favorite treat has in common with yogurt, cheese, and wine. Its flavors come from fermentation. Fermentation is the process of improving a food through the controlled activity of microbes. The food you know as chocolate starts its life as the seeds of football-shaped fruit. Farmers scoop out the seeds and pulp into piles or boxes. The seeds are now called cacao beans. They ferment for about a week before they're dried, roasted, and crushed with sugar until smooth and ready to eat. Let's go back to that fermentation step. Cacao fermentation is a multi-stage process. The first stage involves yeast. Just like the yeast in your beer, yeast in a cacao fermentation produces alcohol by digesting the sugary pulp around the beans.
There is a lot of water on Mars, and there once was a lot of surface flowing water. You don't see it because most of it is mixed with the soil which we call regolith on Mars, so the Martian soil can be anywhere from as little as 1% in some very dry desert-like areas, to as much as 60% water. So, one strategy for getting water when you're on Mars is to break up the regolith, which would take something like a jackhammer because it's very cold, it's very frozen. If you can imagine making a frozen brick or a chunk of ice that's mostly soil and maybe half water and half soil, that's what you would be dealing with. So, you need to break this up, put it in an oven. As it heats up, it turns to steam.
Education leaders need to be dynamic and entrepreneurial change agents. Managing is not enough. Increasingly, leaders must rise to the challenge of changing their organizations through innovative, problem-solving strategies. So, we are combining forces from our School of Education and School of Business to support the development of management, skills, and leadership capacity for current superintendents and other central office leaders. The purpose of School of Education is learning, while the purpose of School of Business is management. Now many institutes are providing education leadership learning opportunities, for profit or non-profit. We want to make sure that here at Stanford, we are not only delivering the services but with good quality.
Sea creatures are inspiring the latest devices that harness wave power. This one, called the oyster, sits on the sea floor and opens and closes as waves pass over it. Cables attach it to generators on the shore. Since the November 2009, it's been powering 9,000 homes in the Orkney Islands. Another device looks like a snake. The anaconda is made from a rubber tube, filled with water that floats just below the surface. When the swell hits the front of it, the tube squeezed above ripples down its lengths and powers a turbine in its tail. Prototypes are currently being tested, but the full-scale version will be 200 meters long. This system also looks like a snake, but this one is made of steel. It floats near the surface, where waves make its joints move. This drive hydraulic system that power electrical generators, like the anaconda,